Welcome back to the live lounge here at PF International at the Kartmasters British Kart Grand Prix. I'm your host, Chris McCarthy. Very excited to welcome now into the live lounge a 4 times winner of the GP plate, Mark Litchfield, who won in 2001, 2009, 2011 and 2014. 4 GP plates in 4 different classes as well. Mark, we'll get into those in just a second, but now running your team, of course. Tell us a little bit about how it's been going so far this weekend.
This weekend's been going okay, actually. We've got 4 drivers out. They're all there or thereabouts. We've had a few tumbles, but I think tomorrow will be all right. I think we're going to be okay.
Let's talk about those wins then. Go back to 2001, your first win. Super Libra was a class you were racing in. A huge class, wasn't it, back then? I mean, tell us some of the names that were racing back then.
Do you know what? I don't really remember, to be honest,
but it was a class that was designed
to... It was a class to amalgamate the Formula A and the ICA together. Yeah. So then it became one huge class. And they were what felt like the hard days. I was a bit younger. But the concept really worked.
So that was where we saw a lot of European drivers coming over to race in that class.
Yeah. We had all sorts from. I'm sure there's some of the Formula One drivers now that were in that sort of era that were racing in that point. So to have won one of those was good.
Yeah, tell us a little bit how the racing was in that class as well. Do you remember much about racing in 2001?
It was a long time ago. It was hard. It was hard but fair, I think.
Right.
A little bit more than it is at the minute. Obviously, I think it was a bit more respectful, as let's say. But again, the same scenarios happened as what happens now, and yeah, it was good.
And moving forward, then you won in 2009 again, and that was in KF2.
Yeah.
So again, another hugely competitive class with.
Yeah.
You know, that was a class in Europe. That was where.
Yeah, I was racing the KF1 in Europe at that point, and again, there was foreigners coming over and doing the race from the main teams and so on and so forth. So maybe I had a little advantage of it being my home track, but it was still good to be fighting and winning against them.
Do you remember any of the names kicking around in 2009?
2009.
KF2?
KF2, not really. Do you know what? I'm absolutely useless with names. And I've raced against so many people over the years. So I raced for, crikey. Yeah. Well, I started when I was 6 and I finished when I was 34.
Right, so
yeah,
I think we can forgive you for that one then.
There's a lot of drivers that I've raced against that, in fact, probably half the F1 grid I've raced against.
Wow.
But yeah, you never quite remember where they were at that point. But,
and then 2011, you won it again, and that was KGP.
That would have been KGP.
And that was when that first. I mean, I raced in KGP in 2012 actually.
Yeah,
so
that was when that first started. Again, at that point, that was really big class.
Yeah.
It was the equivalent.
It was a superstar class, really, wasn't it, in terms of the UK racing?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And they did have a European for it, but it wasn't as big as what we could say that the X30 is now. But it was the equivalent of. And again, it was hard racing. The downfalls, the engines were a little bit temperamental, as you've probably found out.
Yeah.
But no, again, there is no class that you come to a kart Grand Prix here and it's an easy race.
No.
So yeah, it was again another good win, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I mean, because you had, Jake Hughes was in Formula 2 racing it, Bobby Game was racing it, wasn't it? Tom Fawcett was another one who raced it. You know, the names just went, a couple of the guys kicking around in touring cars were racing it as well. The list went on, wasn't it? It was the who's who of British karting at that time,
at that time.
Except for me, maybe. But
I suppose I had I was fortunate enough that I was always in the Premier class throughout. Whatever the Premier class was at the time is what I was racing at the time. So yeah, then you do get obviously the premier people in there to race against, and it's normally those people that go on off and do bigger things and like their F4s and this, that, and the other, or whatever they do. And yeah, it was never easy, but I was fortunate enough that I was always fairly well towards the front.
And tell us then how it was racing in the senior X30 class, because that was the next one you went to win.
Senior
your last
X30
one in
was
2014.
Yes, that was towards the end of my career. I retired in 17. I think it was either the first or second year of the X30, and again at the time, and still is, one of the premier classes. So yeah, to have won in that as well, to have done it and won in 4 times and done it in 4 different classes, then yeah, I suppose it's a half decent achievement.
Is there any that stick out as the ones? Was there one that sticks out as the hardest one?
The ones that probably stick out are the ones that didn't win and probably didn't finish.
Right.
Because it was always one of those races.
Of the ones you won, though, was there one in particular that was the hardest one to win?
Probably the X30 one, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I mean.
Why was that?
Because I was a bit older. I was a bit older and I was racing against a load of kids that were trying to kill me. But yeah, I would suppose so. I suppose that would have been the decent achievement. The KF one, that was good as well. I wouldn't say that I had a favourite, because you go over that finish line first, and it doesn't matter what you're in.
Yeah.
It's an achievement in itself.
What does it take then to win? You've done it 4 times. What does it take to win this event?
Consistency in the heats is key.
Right.
So just get yourself through. Doesn't even need to be right at the front.
Right.
You've just got to be in there with half a shout of the first 5 rows in the pre-final. Maybe even worse than that. And then you just got to get through the pre. Don't crash in the pre. Crash in the pre, it's all over.
Yeah.
And just make sure you're up there. And even on the last lap, if you're 4th, you still haven't lost, because anything can kick off, which it generally does at this sort of meeting, because, well, winner takes all. It's not like a championship where we're going to go on to the next round to get some more points. This is it.
Imagine it's hard jumping from a British Championship to a race like this, where your approach is completely different on a last lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The things that you would do on a last lap of a race like this, you wouldn't do with a British Championship, because you're just going to cost yourself points where, well, second's first loser. You don't want to be there.
You mentioned, before we come to the final question, you raced all around the world. Tell us a little bit what it's like racing in this event. You know, you raced in everything, in all the FI championships.
Yeah.
Tell us how this one
It's
compares.
a spectacle. It's a one-off event every year that everybody comes to do. It's not only the fact that the racing's close, we're at a fantastic venue, it's the camaraderie that goes with it. It's just a decent festival event, and not everybody goes away if enjoyed it, but it's just an enjoyable weekend. And yeah, I did it every year that I could do it if I wasn't obviously racing abroad somewhere.
Final question then, our question of the day. We're going to put to you, Mark, which we put to all the drivers. So if you could go back in time and race at any Kartmasters in any class, which would it be and why? Now, it can be one you raced in or one you didn't. I know you mentioned before there were a couple that you maybe missed out on.
Yeah, I would say I'd quite like to go back to the sort of KF era, maybe. I've never been one to go too far back in time.
Right.
I really enjoyed the Libra.
Right.
But that's a little bit too far in the distance for me. That's too. That was too long ago for me to really remember exactly what all that was like. I know there's a lot of people redoing all that sort of stuff now, which I've not got into. But I would say the KF area was good, because I was racing the same class here as what I was abroad, and yeah, I enjoyed that sort of thing.
Was there something about the kart itself or the competitors why you?
The engine was quick.
Right.
It was. Until the OK came along, and obviously with all the light weight limits and stuff, it was the quickest thing there was. And I suppose, yeah, just the sheer speed of it was the thing for me.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, I remember starting racing in 2008, 2009, and just being blown away by watching it because the grids were just super competitive as well, wasn't they?
And big grids as well, and obviously the karts were really quick. Quite a bit quicker than like what we've got of the fastest here this weekend.
Yeah.
But all that's died away now, so we do the road tax and the X30.
Well, best of luck this weekend. Do you think
Thank
you're
you.
in with the shout this weekend?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah. Best of luck.
All right, brilliant.
Thank you to Mark
Thank
Litchfield. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank
Best
you.
of luck, mate.
Thank you.